Target number 3, Lieutenant Chang, has been flagged by the JTF as a high-priority hostile. Chang is a logistics expert that has been effective in rebuilding the supply chains for the True Sons. He needs to be taken care of before this new influx of weapons and equipment overwhelms the last defensive effort that DC has to offer. Mackenzie Chang is a third-generation Chinese-American who was born and raised in Washington, D.C. His father and his mother's father were both in the Navy, and so, like them, Chang too wanted to follow in their footsteps. Enlisting at 18, he soon discovered that it wasn't the right fit for him. He hated the water and found the Navy and their rules were not to his liking. He ended up being placed in the ground transportation team, and there he felt his time and skills were being wasted. Eventually things came to a head when he got himself involved in a bar fight, and as a result he broke his arm and 3 ribs. With a year still left on his contract, his family were able to pull some strings, and fortunately for him they were able to get him an honourable discharge from the Navy. He returned to civilian life and got a job as a museum security guard within the local mall. Yet, he soon realised that being a security guard at the museum was not as exciting as he thought it would be, and began to miss regular combat trials. He endeavoured to get some of that adrenaline rush back, so he tried his hand at airsoft and hunting, yet these two also lacked the lustre he was after. Finally, he joined the National Guard, in hopes that this would bring some of the action he was longing for. When the National Guard was eventually called on to secure the mall against peaceful protesters, Chang saw this as an opportunity to use his previous knowledge and expertise as a mall security guard to set up the perfect perimeter. General Anderson was impressed by the initiative Chang showed and immediately took him under his wing in logistics. Not long after the death of Antoine Ridgway, Anderson gave Chang his own unit. However, he denied him the promotion that Chang so desired in becoming captain until he could prove himself as a worthy leader. Chang is unwavering in his determination to demonstrate that he is deserving of the leadership role and ready for the title of captain and the admiration of General Anderson.
General Anderson, I just wanted to send my condolences about Dusk and her team.
Thank you, Schaefer.
Moving forward, is there someone else you'd like me to work with?
That won't be necessary.
The division has control of your supply routes in DC. How do you think you'll survive without our assistance?
Well, Lieutenant Chang has more than enough experience organizing transpo and supply drops. We no longer require your services as a glorified errand boy.
I think you're making a mistake.
I've only made 2 mistakes in my life. The first was trusting Lau. The second was letting her bring you into our operation. Good night, Schaefer.
After Agent Dusk's death, Schaefer would get in contact with General Anderson. With everything that had gone down, they were no longer willing to work with the Black Tusk. Rogue agents, hunters that seemed unable to be controlled, and a leadership who were working under their own hidden agenda. Anderson decided that it was no longer in the True Sons' best interest to be working alongside them. Anything they had gained from working with them was more than being made up for by the work Lieutenant Chang was doing in logistics. Baden Schaefer would leave a message with Natalia Sokolova to update her of the situation.
Natalia, Schaefer, just got off the horn with General Anderson. He's decided Black Tusk supplies and assistance are no longer required. The True Sons are on their own, and any tentative peace we may have brokered has been severed by the death of Lynette Dusk Edwards. I'm not comfortable working with the Hunters. This arrangement is creating more problems, and we are losing allies. This is not why I joined the Black Tusk.
Schaefer voices his concerns. He explains that Agent Dusk's death seemed to be a large part of this partnership breaking down, but that the Hunters are his biggest problem. They can't be trusted. They're jeopardizing the mission. This is not what he signed up for. Schaefer would eventually be contacted by Lieutenant Chang.
Schaefer, this is Chang. Come in. Good to hear from you, Lieutenant. You change your mind about working together?
No.
So this is a social call?
Dusk was a good woman and a damn fine soldier.
I know.
She was going to meet you, and you got her killed.
You know that was beyond my control.
You weren't even there. You left her to die.
You're right. I wasn't there. We've run into some complications.
What kind of complications?
There was another player on the field.
What the hell are you talking about?
Those division agents weren't the only ones targeting her.
You make it sound like she was being stalked.
Or hunted.
Chang just wanted to give Schaefer a piece of his mind, wanting him to answer for what he did to Dusk. Schaefer agreed that he had let her down, but that there were unexpected developments, that someone who had been brought in to help, instead, hunted her down. After Fei Lao's death, Captain Lewis sent Chang into Washington, D.C. as part of a specialized team. His job was to re-establish the True Sun's transportation and supply chain in the area. However, after capturing a number of important locations in the Foggy Bottom district, he would quickly appear on the SHD's radar. After battling through Chang's countless number of True Sun soldiers, they would eventually catch up to him in the Potomac Event Center. With the division agent's superior training, it wasn't long before Lieutenant Chang, like so many before him, was eliminated. The story behind this manhunt seems to be less about Lieutenant Chang and more about the continuation of the Black Tusk and Barden Schaefer story, including the falling out with allies, the hunters, and Schaefer's potentially wavering loyalties towards Natalia. This whole season seems to be very heavily focused on the Season 3 Manhunt, with each of these targets so far including information around Dusk and the Hunter. I have a feeling that this will eventually lead us to some more information around the conclusion to Season 3, where we captured Schaefer. We never did find out what he was doing on Coney Island. At this stage, I'm almost completely certain that Schaefer is going to leave the Black Tusk, either later on in this season or potentially in seasons to come. Everything we are seeing is pointing us in that direction. I'm also getting the feeling that there is more to this General Anderson than we expect. He isn't just another temporary faction leader that we take out at the end of the season. I feel like he's going to become something much larger within the storyline. But there is one thing I don't quite understand. Where Anderson said, "I've only made 2 mistakes in my life. The first was trusting Lau. The second was letting her bring you into our operation." What was he talking about here? Unless I'm losing the plot, I don't recall any interactions between Faye and Anderson up until this point. So maybe this is something we'll hear about more soon. Anyway, I think that will do it for this video. I'll get into the next insurance policy comms in the next one. The only other update I have is that obviously I recently set up an account on Spotify to upload some of my videos as podcasts. As I mentioned before, I don't really know what I'm doing in this space, and when mucking around with some of the settings, I seem to have locked one of my videos behind a subscription. The last thing I want to do is lock any of my content behind paywalls. But before I realised what I'd done, a bunch of people had paid for a subscription, so I apologise for that. I'll be disabling the subscription option. But for those of you who do want to give a little extra, I'll be reactivating my Patreon instead. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers!